Section 18. Fair Housing and Ethical Responsibilities. Sarah was excited. Her newest listing had just gone live in Scottsdale, and within a few hours, her phone started ringing. Late that afternoon, the seller called. "I've received several showing requests," he said. "I just have one question." "Sure," Sarah replied. "I'd really like to sell to a young family. The neighborhood is full of kids, and I think they'd fit in better." Sarah paused. She knew the seller wasn't trying to be offensive, but something about the request made her uncomfortable. The next morning, she met with David. "I wasn't sure how to answer," she admitted. David nodded. "That's one of the reasons every Arizona licensee studies fair housing." He pulled a copy of the Federal Fair Housing Act from his bookshelf. The Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968 to ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to buy, rent, and enjoy housing without discrimination. He explained that the law prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, and disability. Arizona licensees must also stay informed about any additional protections provided under state or local law. "The purpose of fair housing isn't to tell people who they must sell to," David explained. "It's to ensure real estate professionals don't participate in discriminatory conduct or influence housing decisions based on protected characteristics." Sarah thought back to the seller's request. "So even if my seller asks me to choose buyers based on who they are instead of the strength of the offer, I can't do that." David explained that ARS Section 32-2153 allows the Arizona Department of Real Estate to discipline licensees who violate real estate laws or engage in conduct demonstrating unworthiness or incompetence. Participating in discriminatory practices can expose a licensee to complaints, disciplinary action, civil liability, and fair housing investigations. Imagine you're hosting an open house in Chandler. A buyer asks, "Is this a good neighborhood for families with children?" How would you respond? Here's where many agents unintentionally create fair housing concerns. Experienced Arizona brokers avoid describing neighborhoods based on the people who live there. Instead, they focus on objective facts. Sarah could respond by discussing the property's features, nearby parks, community amenities, school district boundaries, or publicly available resources, while encouraging buyers to conduct their own research about whether the neighborhood meets their individual needs. "We sell houses. We don't decide where people belong." He shared another example. Several years earlier, an agent advertised the listing as perfect for young professionals. The advertisement sounded harmless. However, it suggested a preference for one type of buyer over another. Under the Realtor Code of Ethics, Article 10, realtors must provide equal professional services and may not discriminate based on protected characteristics. David explained that fair housing isn't limited to advertising. It affects every conversation, every showing, every phone call, every email, every text message. Consumers should receive the same professional service regardless of who they are. Experienced brokers often ask their agents one simple question before making a recommendation. "Would I say this to every client?" If the answer is no, it's worth stopping to think about why. Professional realtors understand that equal service isn't just a legal requirement. It's one of the foundations of consumer trust. By treating every consumer fairly, focusing on objective property information, and avoiding assumptions about a person's preferences or qualifications, realtors help create a marketplace where every buyer and seller has an equal opportunity to achieve their real estate goals. As we move into the final section of this chapter, we'll bring together the federal laws you've learned and explore how ethical business practices protect consumers while strengthening your professional reputation. Online Discussion 1. Why should realtors focus on objective property information instead of describing the types of people who live in a neighborhood? Answer. Focusing on objective facts helps realtors comply with fair housing laws while allowing consumers to make their own decisions. Describing neighborhoods based on the people who live there may unintentionally steer buyers or suggest preferences based on protected characteristics. 2. Imagine a seller asks you to choose a buyer based on personal characteristics instead of the terms of the offer. How would you respond? Answer. I would explain that fair housing laws prohibit real estate professionals from participating in discriminatory practices. I would advise the seller to evaluate offers based on objective business factors such as price, financing, contingencies, and closing terms, rather than personal characteristics protected by law. 3. How can realtors help promote equal housing opportunities in Arizona? Answer. Realtors promote equal housing opportunities by providing consistent professional service to every consumer, advertising properties without discriminatory language, avoiding assumptions about buyers or neighborhoods, and complying with fair housing laws throughout every transaction.